The downfall of this UK celebrity is truly insane. Hello you gorgeous donuts. James Corden is arguably one of the most famous people to come out of the UK in the last decade or 20 years. He quickly became some sort of national treasure within the UK and went over to America and became even bigger. However, he actually had one of the biggest downfalls that I've ever seen a celebrity have. So I thought in this video we would document his rise to fame and why he fell off a cliff so quickly. When researching this, there is so much that I found out that I didn't know, so stay tuned because some of this is really shocking. So James Corden started his career with a few acting gigs when he was very young. He appeared in shows such as Martin Gaye, which was a musical, and also Whatever Happened to Harold Smith. I know, two bangers that I watch every single day. And he kind of worked his way up the acting ladder, which led to him gaining a role in the series Fat Friends, where he met Ruth Jones, who he would later go on to be in business with and create Gavin and Stacey. James and Ruth would write the whole show, produce it, and also act in it. You could say that them two were arguably the biggest characters on that show as well. For people that don't know what Gavin and Stacey is, it's a sitcom which basically took the UK by storm, and I would still say today is one of the most beloved sitcoms the UK has ever produced. I've rewatched it about 4 or 5 times, and every Christmas I watch the Christmas specials. It really is a great show, and I feel like this cemented James Corden as a credited person with a lot of talent. And Ruth Jones as well. I think this show was especially great for me because I kind of could relate to it, whereas I couldn't relate to a lot of other, kind of sitcoms or shows around that time. The fact that the Welsh family in the show lived in a house which strangely looks similar to mine, it kind of encapsulated you and you were kind of sucked into this universe that obviously didn't exist, but it meant so much to you. Now, like I mentioned, James would actually act in this show. He played the role Smithy, and he actually won a BAFTA for his acting performance in 2008, and it's easy to see why, because his character was very layered, it was very well written, and he was also extremely funny as well.
We're getting an Indian, what do you fancy?
Chicken boner, lamb boner, prawn boner, mushroom rice, bag of chips, keema naan and 9 poppadoms.
I'm just going to stick it on the table,
Whoa, right. Okay.
Like, you can see he has natural charisma on screen, and it's almost like it's not scripted. Like, it's almost like he's riffed in this. And they often tackled things that you could relate to in your own life. It was a very clever show, and, it really just excelled within the time period it was created. And like I mentioned, they actually made 3 Christmas specials. We are going to talk a little bit more about the recent one, which came out this year later in this video. But the first 2 broke so many records. And like I said, I watch these every single year. They're like a reoccurring thing that I watch, like with Elf and everything. That's where I kind of put them. And because of the success of this show and how quickly it kind of happened, James actually said that this turned his life upside down. He went from, like a nobody to an overnight celebrity after, producing this. And he said that his life was never the same since. And although at this time he was very much beloved by, social media and just the wider public, like nobody really had a negative opinion on this guy. There was murmurings under the surface that, he wasn't actually the lovable camera that you see on your screens. Rob Brydon, who played Uncle Bryn in Gavin and Stacey and was a huge character on that show, actually said a few things about James Corden that went kind of, against his character. Rob Brydon said that Corden had started acting ratty and irritable and felt he needed to dig himself out of a dangerous hole before it was too late. I was very impressed by him, although he was very young, very green, very provincial, is how I would describe him. Not unlike myself at that age, he is such a talent, James. Good God, he really is. So he was on a roller coaster. He said he was also enjoying the fruit of his success, and he'd lost his way a bit. He was burning the candle at both ends and becoming ratty and irritable. He was in a washing machine being battered around. I felt for him. The press over here were hoping and praying he'd fall flat on his face, because that would have been a fantastic story. I don't like hearing people saying this because that's not the person I know, so you need to be careful, and he took it in the spirit that it was intended. So basically Rob Brydon is saying to him, look, like, you're kind of enjoying your success a little bit too much here. You could argue that he was probably getting a bit big for his boots, and this often happens, not just with celebrities, but it can happen, with YouTubers or anyone that gets a really quick rise to fame. It almost goes to their head because they haven't had like that adjustment period, like someone that is grew year on year, very gradual. It's kind of easy to say, oh, I'm at this stage now, okay, like I'm at this stage, and it's like you can kind of understand it a little bit more, and your brain can kind of, theorize like what is happening. However, when it is kind of overnight or happens like that, it's impossible for your brain to catch up because your brain is just kind of running with it. And although people people who do act like this do need to take responsibility. Like Rob Brydon says, I do have a little bit of like sympathy for him at this point, because I imagine there's loads of people around him, like hanger-oners, that are like yes men, kind of, you know, inflating his ego, and he doesn't really have anyone like Rob who tells him, look, stop it, okay, you're being a bit of an arse. And after this, he also had like a much more public argument with Patrick Stewart. He's like one of the most famous actors that's ever existed. Any X-Men fans will know exactly who this guy is. Well, when James Corden was actually presenting an awards show, Patrick Stewart came up to collect his award and confronted James about the way that he was acting on stage.
I want to speak to James here. It's James, isn't it? When the presenters are up here and when the recipients are receiving their awards, don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets, looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here.
Oh, you couldn't be more wrong, sir. You couldn't be more wrong. Oh, genuinely. And if it looked like that, I'm so sorry. But when you come up and present an award, just get on with it. There we go.
So, obviously you can see here that this must have been some sort of thing that's been like kind of bubbling under the surface between these two, or at least Patrick Stewart's heard some stuff and he felt like he needed to confront him about it, because it just seemed kind of out of the blue. Like, it's such a weird thing to pick up on, especially when you've just won an award. Like, it's just weird to mention James Corden, and clearly James was defensive here. Like, he kind of got his back up a little bit and just told him like, oh mate, just collect your award then piss off, will you?
From where I was sitting, I can see your belly. And that was right over there at the back of the room. These people down here, you know.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the punchline. Go on. No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on. You can see my belly, and we can all see you dying right now. Let's go for it. Here we go.
Now, weirdly, Patrick Stewart does come off worse in this clip, because it's almost like he's trying to embarrass him publicly. Like, if this was anyone else but James Corden, because I know other, like, some people watching this will have just an opinion on James Corden. Imagine it's somebody else, you would feel sorry for them. And it's just kind of unneeded, but clearly at this point, there is kind of stuff within the, I guess, the celeb community where people are starting to be irritated by him. But us, the public, don't really kind of understand why. Now, despite these little hiccups, James's career would go from strength to strength. He would often be kind of like a solidified thing on Comic Relief, which was a huge show when I was younger. Like, people used to sit down and like just watch this for hours. I always remember he did like skits on it. There was one where he did like a talk with the England team that went mega viral, and it was really funny as well. Like, it was really good.
When I look at you, everything tells me that you should be rubbish at football, and yet you're brilliant.
You can see like all the other England players like David Beckham and like Ashley Cole absolutely creep, because they don't know what's coming. They just know he's probably going to take the piss out of them all. And at this point, I was still a huge fan of him. There was so much more after this. There was ones where he like did one with David Beckham. He did like a fitness routine with Wayne Rooney and the Manchester United team. This guy was in with all of the big boys at this point. Now, because he was quite big in the sports scene, he actually managed to land a hosting role on the show A League of Their Own. For people that have never seen this before, it's basically like a panel show centered around sport, but it was really, really good and really funny. And I believe James actually hosted this show from around 11 to 13 seasons, I think it was. So this was a huge success for him. And I used to watch like bits and bobs of this. It was on Sky, and I didn't have Sky as a kid, so I couldn't watch it all. But sometimes there would be like reruns on other channels. But the fact it lasted that long shows how good the viewing figures must have been. And at this point, it seemed like James had almost completed life in the UK, like within the showbiz kind of scene. Like, there was nothing more for him really to do. He'd kind of conquered it. However, in James's head, I don't believe this was enough, as he now wanted to conquer America. And I don't know if this was a coincidence, the timing, or if James knew this was coming, but in 2014, the host of The Late Late Show, Craig Ferguson, announced he was going to be stepping down after 11 seasons, and he was going to be replaced by James Corden, which, by the way, is such a mental thing, because you don't really see many people who are big in the UK in the presenting scene go over to America and do really well. For instance, Ant and Dec over here are absolutely huge, but in America, you know, I don't think every single person in America knows who Ant and Dec are. So it is a big step and a very, very risky one. And I thought this was especially risky for James because his humour is very much like dry British, and I didn't really think, America would take to that kind of style. However, despite this, James would go on to host his first show in March 2015, and this show would be the most successful thing that James Corden had ever accomplished. The amount of views that the segments on this show would get would be mind-blowing. I remember at the time him uploading these to YouTube and him just being everywhere. Like, he was just catapulted to a new level of fame that was like unfathomable from like the Gavin and Stacey days. And I believe his success was mainly down to him being the first kind of late night show that realised it was social first. Like, people in America, like, you don't watch the actual full episodes of the late night show. You just kind of watch the clips, the interview segments, maybe it's the game showy bits. You don't, like, nobody really sits down to watch the entire thing because that's boring. And James realised this and just made social media the main focus. And the way he would do this was by creating concepts that created really good clips. His biggest concept, in my opinion, was carpool karaoke. The amount of views that this concept used to get was out of this world. Like, some of these have nearly 250 million views. Like, that is genuinely insane for a talk show. Now, this show basically consisted of James driving around in his Range Rover and having a music artist who would basically sing their songs along with James while he played it out of his car stereo. Again, such a simple concept that seemed to work so well. Now, the reason for the success and, the huge numbers was basically down to the caliber of people he managed to get on this show, such as Adele, One Direction, Justin Bieber, Bruno Mars, Sia, the person that no one's ever seen. And when you go out of like the top 10 most viewed, it's still like insane. Ed Sheeran, Ariana Grande, Lady Gaga, Billie Eilish, Harry Styles, like, the list goes on and on and on here. And I will admit, I did used to like enjoy watching these as like a guilty pleasure. Like, it's so kind of crap, which makes it good. It's just like basically listening to a podcast, really. Another huge concept that James created was Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts, where basically he would sit celebrities down and he would ask them some really personal, close questions. And if they chose to like not eat it, they basically had to spin like a wheel of like horrible drinks and horrible food, and whatever it landed on, they would have to eat. And again, this is just perfectly set up for viral clips, because if you don't get them answering the question, which will create the viral clip, they eat something disgusting and there's your viral clip. So basically, he's got it covered at both ends. And again, this was really entertaining. Like, it was such a simple thing that probably James didn't come up with himself, I don't know. But it works so well. Now, he did have some other concepts that were hugely successful, such as Drop the Mic, where basically he would do like a rap battle against a celebrity. I remember he did one with Kevin Hart.
You're adorable! Look at this guy! You're so little, when you smoke weed, you get junior high. Get hard, right along too. Hey, you're great at being in movies with people more famous than you.
Yeah, like if you close your eyes, it's almost like listening to B-Rabbit on 8 Mile. If you just like kind of just keep walking away from the speakers, just keep going. It's basically the same thing. And these concepts made him basically like wipe the floor with all of the other competitors that were in the late night space. Like, none of them were doing this at this point. It was like kind of overwhelming for them, because how are you meant to compete with this machine that James has created? And you can even see in that performance he did in Drop the Mic, he was very confident and he almost believed in himself that whatever he touched would turn to gold. But what happens when somebody feels like they can't fail at anything normally means they start failing at everything soon. As after this, James's career would sharply go downhill. Now, a common theme that we've discussed with James is that nothing ever seems like enough for him. Like, he achieves just a madness, but it doesn't fill that something inside of him is just like not satisfied, that he needs more and more. So he actually decided to venture into movies. However, a lot of people said that this wasn't a strength of his, and you're probably going to see why when I list them all. One of his most famous movies is Cats, which is like an animated real life action like movie about cats. Shockingly, the reviews aren't great for this. I've never seen this movie, I will be honest, for a reason. You can't believe what you're looking at because it's so hideous to behold. People often say the same thing about me when they meet me in person, to be fair. Oh, is that actually what you look like? What? This may be too indigestible even for a hate watch. Now, that is like a striking review. I tried to hate watch it, but it was so bad that I couldn't even do that. That's when you know you've made a pretty up movie. Now, I have seen clips of it, and I will admit, it doesn't look the best. I think it's the faces that I just can't get past. Like, I wish they either just picked, I don't know, just like actual cats and just give them voices, or they animated it. Like, I don't know why they had to do some sort of human-cat hybrid. It just doesn't really sit well with me. No matter even if this movie had the greatest storyline ever, I just wouldn't be able to get past the faces, I'm afraid. Now, apparently this movie allegedly costed around 80 to 100 million to make, and it only made 75 million. Obviously 75 million's a lot, but not when you've made a loss. So, you know, any movie that makes a loss is very clearly a failure. And James actually said on his late night show that he never actually watched the final edit of it, so that kind of shows you what he thought of the movie and how much pride he really took in, you know, being an actor in that. James also made another movie called The Prom, where he, a straight man, plays an openly gay guy. And the way he plays it is just like very stereotypical, and people obviously were giving him hate for this because they were like, why didn't you just cast a gay person to play a gay person? Like, why did you need James Corden, who's a straight man, to play like this like flamboyant like of what he thinks a gay person is? It just made no sense, and it's just kind of cringe.
We actually do this.
You bet your sweet MILF ass we can.
You bet your sweet MILF ass we can. Am I right, ladies? Yeah. Now again, the reviews for this were pretty awful. I'll just read this headline from The Independent. James Corden torn apart for truly disgusting performance in The Prom. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about the reception to this movie. It had Meryl Streep in as well. How could you do that to Meryl? Now, when researching James Corden's movies, I actually didn't realise that in 2009, before he actually went to America, he'd created a movie then called Lesbian Vampire Killers with Matthew Horn, who played Gavin in Gavin and Stacey. And I think, like, you can tell what that movie's about just by the title. Very niche, you know, kind of. Why would you choose that as your niche, you know? If there was a zombie apocalypse, you only killed the lesbian zombies. Pretty harsh, if you ask me. Now, like I said when I introduced this section, like, I don't think movies are really James Corden's kind of forte. I think he kind of maybe went too far with this. I think that he was probably just kind of on this momentum ride of thinking, I can do anything, everything I do is a success, I can smash the movie world. Very clearly, you know, in my opinion, that didn't happen. However, this wasn't actually the most alarming part of James Corden's downfall. What was really alarming was the things that people started saying about him behind the scenes. Now, this is all public information, and I'm not saying that any of this is fact. I need to make that clear. But you can Google all the things I'm about to say here. Basically, I'm not revealing this information. Just need to say that in case I get in trouble. Now, one of the first controversies James had, which was kind of a minor one in my opinion, was him faking the carpool karaoke. Basically, someone took a video and a photo of him where his Range Rover was on the back of like a tow truck and he wasn't actually driving. I remember that being a big thing at the time, and I remember thinking, yeah, I thought like people would have knew that, because I thought there might have been some rules with the way he was filming. Also, the camera quality that he would use, like they would have to have DSLR cameras hooked on every single angle, like they would just fall off if James was actually going a certain mile an hour. But then again, on the other hand, I didn't know that James kind of said that he actually was driving around, and you know, he never actually admitted to this, which does obviously break the trust of many of the fans of this concept. He actually did respond to all of this drama on his show,
saying that I don't drive the car during carpool karaoke, right? Now, I really hate that I'm about to say this, right? But fake news, okay? Now, to get you caught up to speed, a few days ago, somebody tweeted this video.
Yo, it's the Beebs! They're doing carpool karaoke.
That is so funny.
Now, when you see that video, it does break the magic of it, and every single time you watch a carpool karaoke now, you have that on the back of your mind, and it kind of kills it a little bit. At least it does for me. Even though I kind of already predicted that, you know, this was possibly the case, I just kind of want to ignore that.
I know this looks bad. But I just want to say right now that I always drive the car unless we're doing something where we think it might not be safe.
Now, I didn't think this was that deep at the time, but some of the other stuff we're going to talk about is definitely. Now, one of the first times where people started to hate James Corden was when he was presenting an award at, I think it was like a charity thing. He made a joke about Harvey Weinstein when it was like fresh happening.
Right here in LA, it's so beautiful. Harvey Weinstein has already asked tonight up to his hotel to give him a massage.
Like, it's just kind of odd. He got booed for it, and it's just not him as well. Like, you know, some comedians, their whole thing is telling offensive jokes and they kind of get away with it because the way that, you know, they do it or whatever. That's not James Corden, and I think that was like, you know, also a bad part of it is like, why is he trying to do this? Like, you know, what are you getting out of saying that? And also, like, loads of people have been really hurt by this guy. This guy's not a very, like, just trying to make light of a weird situation. It just didn't work at all. He did actually apologise for this. He basically said, to be clear, assault is no laughing matter. I was not trying to make light of Harvey's inexcusable behaviour, but to shame him, the abuser, not the victims. I'm truly sorry for anyone offended. That was never my intention. It's like, well, obviously people are going to be offended if you even say his name. So, like, why would you bring it up in the first place? There was also controversy with another joke that James said on his show, where apparently he'd stole it from Ricky Gervais, who said it previously.
Because if someone puts up a poster in a town square that says guitar lessons available,
that's like going into a town square, seeing a big notice board, and there's a notice, guitar lessons.
Like, you don't get people in the town go, I don't want to play the guitar!
And you go, but I don't want guitar lessons.
I mean, that sign wasn't for you. It was for somebody else. You don't have to get mad about all of it.
Fine, it's not for you then. Just walk away. Don't worry about it.
So it's basically identical. Even the way that it's framed and the way the joke's set up leads me to think that James, you know, did copy this. But I will say, I don't think James writes his own jokes for his show, which again is another concept that you can kind of blame him for. But it'll be the writers of the show that have created these jokes, and maybe it's one of the writers have seen this and, you know, they have copied it. However, if you're James Corden, it's your duty to be, you know, the final sign-off on the script. You should be able to be like, I think that's been stolen or whatever. Like, surely James would know about Ricky Gervais. They're both huge, you know, just people within the comedy sphere out of the UK. And this was a huge special from Ricky as well. So you can't excuse this. Like, this was definitely taken from Ricky's thing, in my opinion. Now, also in 2023, a guy called Craig Duncan, who I believe was a producer on James Corden's panel show, A League of Their Own, actually came out and said that James was just, like, really bad to work with, in his opinion.
We were working it out to save time when old Buggerlugs pipes up. What the f*** is going on here? It's obvious what you do. You put a camera there, you put a camera there, you put a camera there, and you put a camera there. He comes up, shows his dish, goes back to his table. He comes up, shows his dish, goes back to his table. You do it like this. It's so obvious how you shoot it. It's stupid.
Just put yourself in, you know, the director, the producer shoes there. This is something you know about how production works. Like, you've studied this to the letter. You know exactly the best way to shoot this. And, you know, James's role is the presenter. He can have opinions. He can, you know, put things forward about how he thinks it, you know, like things can make it better. But it's the way you portray that and the way that he says that James portrayed that information. To me, it seems like he's talking down to him and like saying, you're an idiot, you don't know how to do this. And that's not the way to talk to anybody on set. Like, everyone on set is there for the exact same objective, to make the best show possible. There's no need to be nasty to people, because even if their job is a director or even if they're a runner, every single person matters on that set. And according to Craig, this isn't the vibe that James kind of gives off. I've also seen a clip from Spill or Fill Your Guts where one of the guests asks James, like, name one of your producers or name the cameraman or name anyone who was on set filming this, and he can't do it, which again to me is a little bit of like I don't know, it's a bit of a red flag, because it's like, well, clearly, you know, you're not really this isn't really a team effort here. Like, you're kind of rinsing off the top, you're gaining all the money off this, but the people that are doing like the hard groundwork don't even know their names. So do you really appreciate what they're doing for you? It's just little things, you know, that really kind of builds the kind of character of what this person is possibly like behind the scenes. Another thing that really was a negative thing for James's kind of public image was when a restaurant owner called Keith McNally publicly called James Corden out for his behaviour that he did in one of his restaurants. This is what Keith McNally, the restaurant owner, said about James, and I quote, "The most abusive customer to my Balthazar servers since the restaurant opened 25 years ago." And then he was banned, like, completely from the restaurant after this. Like, do you know how bad you have to be for a restaurant owner to be like, yeah, like, that is the worst customer we've had in 25 years. That is one award you don't want to win, okay? And also, like, everyone knows this. If someone is rude to waiters or waitresses, an instant red flag. Like, you know, if you're on a first date with someone and they talk to like the waiter as if they're nothing, like, you're gonna be like, oh, I don't wanna, like, it's such a side of someone's kind of, you know, personality and who they really are. It's one of my biggest icks when people are rude to people in hospitality. Now, this restaurant owner did actually have an interview with The Independent like a year after it happened, and he said that James Corden, in his opinion, was just intoxicated with power. And you often see this with people. Like, I always say, money and fame doesn't make people worse people, it shows who they really are. So it just kind of amplifies who you are as a person. So So if you're a nasty person and you get loads of power and get loads of money, your nasty side is going to show so much because you've got the ability to do anything you want. Whereas if you're a nice person and you get loads of money and fame, you use it for good. You know, it's just, that's how I honestly look at it. Now, we've covered a lot of things, but so much more stuff was coming out about James Corden that even, you know, the YouTube channel Watch Mojo made this video.
Today, we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times James Corden was a wanker.
You know how much bad stuff you need to do for Watch Mojo to be like, we've got to put this into like a top 10 list. Now, because of all of this negative press around James Corden, it was clearly becoming really intense because James actually announced that he was stepping away from the Late Late Show after 8 years in the business, which is like such a huge announcement for him. Now, it's publicly said by, you know, various media outlets the reason for this was actually follower counts dropping, perception shifting from beloved host to controversial figure. Whether you believe that, I probably would say it's probably something to do with that. Like, more and more people probably are just kind of not watching him because of what they're hearing. However, James' rationale was actually he wanted to put down roots in the UK for his family. There was people that were getting older back home that he just wanted to spend more time with, and he wanted to be near them. And I do think there is a happy medium where, you know, the kind of both exist. But all of this negative attention and people not licking his arse anymore has probably made him believe, or just think about like, oh, what is actually important to me? Like, it's my family. It's not all of this being friends with this person because this means that I'm cool or whatever. And I do think that is one reason why James Corden might have, you know, become a totally different person when he, you know, got lots of money, is because he was very clearly insecure and he was filling that insecurity with fame. And I believe this fame kind of made him feel that he was wanted and made him feel important. And he's probably never felt that previously becoming, you know, before becoming famous. And that can really be just such a negative effect on someone because it's never a good thing to base your entire personality on how famous or how rich you are, because you then just come off as an arse. Nobody likes that sort of person. No one. Now, after this, he did actually move back to the UK and he straight away got to work on a Gavin and Stacey reboot. This was just the finale, the third installment of the Christmas specials. And honestly, I was actually happy about this because this to me felt like he was going back to who he really is and who like he should be, not this kind of weird caricature of like who he actually is. I've just butchered that word, but you know what I mean. Like, it seemed like he was doing that just to be as rich and as famous as possible, but I do feel like Gavin and Stacey is possibly where his passion actually lies. But one thing I do really hope for him is that the experiences he's been through and the way that he's treated people, I hope that now he kind of realizes that that wasn't the way to go about things. And no matter how rich you are or how famous you are, that doesn't mean that you're better than anyone, and that doesn't mean that you can treat people the way you want to treat them because you're the one who's in charge and what you say goes. Hopefully you have enjoyed this. Let me know if you have. I'm enjoying doing these kind of docu-series videos, so let me know if there's anyone else you want me to do them on. Drop a like on this video, and if you want to watch another video exactly like this from me on a UK celebrity, click this video right here because there's really interesting stuff in this. It's on a woman called Katie Price who used to take the UK by storm. See you over there.
Kirkham, baby.